Hey everyone, I'm going to talk all about my journey with body dysmorphia, how the fears on my body image really affected me, which really was the core fear was rejection, but I really didn't want to highlight that for a long time. All the compulsions and avoidance behaviors I did in between, why the compulsions and the avoidance behaviors kept my fear alive much longer than it needed to be, because I didn't want to let go of this identity I built around myself, which was really, really difficult to let go of. In theory, I thought it made a lot of sense. I said, this makes sense. I'm going to drop my identity in this conditional self-acceptance way and go on my way. But there was all these little behaviors I was doing in between, and compulsively tracking calories. And even when I wasn't counting calories, I was still very much aware and would avoid lunch a lot. I didn't eat lunch for a while because I was so afraid of gaining extra weight. Researching, whenever I felt uncomfortable, I would jump to a research article, etc., etc. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. This is really dear to me, this topic, because I have I don't know if sorry, was eating lunch before. I don't know if hate love is the correct terminology, but I have a special place in my belief system for exercise of all sorts, whether it's CrossFit, bodybuilding, powerlifting, Ironman, in all extreme sports. I think there's a lot of fun in that. I think if it's not handled properly, you can easily attach it to your identity, and that becomes a really big problem. So if you're really struggling with this, whether you're an athlete, we work with all different types of people, ranging from bodybuilders to professional athletes, retired athletes, amateur collegiate athletes, and there's a wide spectrum of stuff that we're seeing. A lot of it, again, fear of rejection is really the main thing, and then fear of fear. And if you really need help with this, please email us at phil@ocdrecovery.com, and we'll get back to you in a timely fashion. So I remember when I was younger, I had a friend of mine, his name was Mike. And when we would go to Mike's house when we were younger, we were allowed to do really whatever we want. It was a very unique environment. We would smoke a lot of weed. We were stay up all hours of the night. We would eat really bad. We were young. We were like 15 or 16. And one day, Mike this is when the movie 300 first came out with Leonidas, King Leonidas. He got in really, really good shape, and all of the guys and the girls were gawking over him. I could still see him in that outfit, and it was a complete change because he had, he was just a skinny, fat type kid and dad bod and wasn't really in good shape, and it changed everything. And I remember I came home, and when my father was still alive, that's when I said to him, I want to look like that. And my dad said to me, well, you got to stop smoking cigarettes first, because I was still smoking cigarettes a lot. I didn't quit smoking cigarettes. I worked out very compulsively for years while smoking cigarettes, which was always a fun time and a unique time. But in that moment, conditional acceptance really was born, because I have memories before that where I don't think I had any of that, besides the natural stuff that you develop when you're a kid. But that's really when it took place. And then that developed over a 15-year period where I had so many different compulsions. One of them, I say a lot, was I didn't wear underwear because I didn't like the way underwear felt in my body. I'd have to wear specific type of shirts because I wanted to show off my muscles. So I'd always have to wear like really tighter shirts like this. What else did I do? Didn't wear baggy shirts, which is the opposite one. Instagram, when that came about, in photos, that was a really big one. Constantly taking selfies, sending selfies in certain angles, always having my face in a certain way. Always going on vacation, the first thing I was looking for was a gym. You can work out on vacations. If I was to go on a cruise for a week, I would certainly work out on the cruise for a week, but it's not my main priority. I'm still enjoying all the food. I'm still doing all the other stuff. It's more of an adjunct to my life. That was a really big one. Before I even went home for the holidays, I'd have my mom load up on all my food, so all my proteins. I would give her a list of stuff I need. I would say, this is what I need when I come home from college. I need all this grilled chicken, egg whites, all this, dry pasta, no sodiums, no sugars, and physically I was in really good shape, and I was extremely lean for years and years. But the problem was my entire identity was built off that. And then the sensations I didn't like feeling, I was really afraid to feel any sort of hot temperature because I was afraid I was losing too much water weight and I would become flat. I was afraid of any extra strenuous activities, yard work, extra sports, anything that wasn't deemed what I thought was necessary to build muscle was everything I avoided. This sounds comical to someone who doesn't suffer from this, but this is a very common, widespread belief. And when it really took latch was 3 years ago when I was reading a by a great company, Renaissance Periodization, who I love, was reading their new book on building muscle. And I read something about how if you have any sort of extra stress in your body, it will stop you from building muscle. I had a panic attack when I read that, and that's when things really went downhill from there. And then I spent the next, 18 months being much more compulsive than I was. And I just want to, give you that, but then go backwards. And all throughout the years of, 2008 to 2020, constantly changing my workout program. I felt like I wasn't seeing the results I wanted to, so I was changing my workout program a lot. I hand tracked my macros. Everyone hears me talk about that: calories, protein, carbs, and fats. I was very meticulous about going places where I thought foods would upset my stomach. I wouldn't even give that a shot. So all the sensations around bloating, gassiness, diarrhea, all the gastro symptoms I would avoid as best as I could, which then brought a fear around those symptoms along the lines of, oh my gosh, I never want to experience that. That'd be the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh, being somewhere and being really gassy, because my body was so jacked up from symptoms because I was so afraid of them. Just how we have that simple statement, don't think about pink elephants, you're going to think about pink elephants. And then when I read that in that ebook and had a panic attack, that's when things really, really got bad. So I was petrified to look in the mirror. If I saw myself in the mirror without a shirt on, I'd have a panic attack. I always needed to look a certain way. Anything that would produce extra activity really heightened even more. I had that for 10 years, but it took a whole new level. I mean, if I would do a lot of soft tissue as a chiropractor, if I would even do like a trigger point release on someone and press down like that, it would feel like I was losing muscle in my lats. All because of my fear of rejection. And so that was the main thing. So a lot of people have been liking the way I've been using the paper in my videos. So I'll do that again and just kind of go through what I noticed with myself. So, when you look at what the activating event is, okay? The activating event really isn't being skinny or losing muscle or being overweight. The activating event is rejection. That is the core fear. The core fear in all body dysmorphia, the core fear in all bodybuilding issues or fitness issues, whether it's a performance thing. We're talking about physical looks right now, but this goes for all sorts of our performance. I work with people where it didn't hit them so much physically, but there was the meticulousness of their sport. Massive tracking compulsions, and the balance is what's really needed. So the belief systems, this is where the belief can go into those separate categories. So remember, rejection is the core fear. And then what it will look like is, and I'll give some examples. If rejected, it's horrible. And this is what you want to do when you go through the books on a reading list. I have the first book right behind me, so I'll pull that out after I'm done writing this. You can find those books on our website at ocdrecovery.com underneath the free resource tab. It's a really good place to find those books. You can find them anywhere, but that's where we have them written. Another big one for me was, if I lose muscle, I'll combine these two. If I lose muscle / get fat, it can't be overweight. It had to be the word fat for me, because overweight, I tried to work my way out of that. Even the word fat really scared me. If I lose muscle, get fat, it's unbearable. So that was a big one. Then there's a lot of societal pressures with that as well, because people are very black and white about being overweight. People think they're much smarter than people when they're in good shape, and they're like, you're an idiot, you're fat, I know more than you. I did that one. Another one for me was, it actually wasn't even so much this, but I know it's a big one that affects a lot of people. And that is, if I can't, and I'll put train, because that can be bodybuilding or sport. If I can't train, life is meaningless. Now, there's not a lot of authority in the bodybuilding community. There was a really good guy. His name was John Meadows. He died of a heart attack, I don't know, 7 months ago. And before he passed away, I remember he was asked, is there a modern authority in the body dysmorphia problems? Because there was a lot more videos popping up. Cedric McMillan, which is a guy that did a really good video about how even when he was on the Mr. Olympia stage, he struggled with this, and he was a top 10 Mr. Olympia bodybuilder who unfortunately, I believe, died of a heart attack as well. And I believe at 44 on the treadmill. So, we have a really big problem in fitness right now we have an overusage of anabolic steroids. I don't think it's possible to use anabolic. So I took anabolic steroids for years. I've taken everything you can take. I do not think it's possible to take anabolic steroids and develop unconditional acceptance. I don't see how it's possible. I've thought about this quite a bit because you're doing something where it's the same thing like surgery. If you're constantly getting surgery, I don't think it's possible, plastic surgery, to develop unconditional acceptance because it goes completely against it. It's like saying I want to get sober, but you're still drinking alcohol. There are two forces that collide with each other, and they just don't make a lot of sense. Again, if it has to happen, it happens, but you probably don't want to go down that route because it's not really good. And then this equals your consequence. And remember, inside your consequence, which if you haven't read the books on the reading list and you're finding this for the first time, you'll understand what we mean by there's an emotional disturbance, and then there's the compulsion. So think about all the behaviors I just said, but the compulsions, you know, a lot of them is embarrassment, okay? Embarrassment, shame, a lot of shame. If you gain weight or don't have the muscle, a lot of anxiety, a lot. I had so much anxiety because I was so afraid of losing muscle. Anxiety would just blast me all the time because I was so afraid of experiencing that for a plethora of different reasons. So anxiety, shame, embarrassment, etc., etc. And that's what that will look like when you're writing that out. So you will be able to find that in this book right here. Like I said, the first book on the reading list, Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, Yes Anything. And this will really break down those beliefs about rejection. But you are going to want to get the third book on the reading list, which is The Myth of Self-Esteem. And that book shows you why self-esteem through building muscle, through thinking you can prove yourself through your sport, or anything, having a really good-looking partner, or having a lot of money, or having a lot of cars, is like trying to fill up a bucket of water with a hole in the bottom. It needs constant replenishment. And the only individual that could ever achieve such things are people who are perfect. And the last time I checked, no one's perfect. So it is a really, really big problem to go for that. Now, how do I go about it now? And it is important to cover this. I work out 5 days a week. I have a good plan of what I'm going to do. I don't track anything on paper. I don't track my calories on paper. I try to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't go too crazy in either direction. I don't go too crazy with eating, you know, only cookies all day. And I don't go too crazy with eating chicken and broccoli and rice all day because I think that's a big, big problem. Balance is in the middle. I like to have fun. I have a good perception on being healthy now because I look at it as a good benefit, a good activity to have in my life. I do cardio a couple times a week, 2-3 times a week. And if I was to be invited to do something else, whether it was go to a fitness class with my wife, I would go to that and I wouldn't think too much about it. Because again, I was so obsessed with not going off my plan. That would really mess me up big time. So I need to be more aware of that than I thought I needed to be. There's a lot of hope. Yes, you can still exercise. Yes, you can still bodybuild. There is one other extra thing I wanted to add on here. And this is an odd one. This will go for the people that struggle with the body image related stuff in the gym, is wear cutoffs when you work out your legs. This is a very subtle compulsion. Anyone that's into the gym knows that people like to cover up their upper body when they're lifting legs, or to wear legs, they'll wear a sweatshirt, long sleeves. They don't like to look at themselves without a pump in the gym. This is a compulsion for sure. A lot of people fight me on this, but I see it. And I know what I see because I struggle with this myself. I'm right there with all of you. I work out now every single day in a cutoff. And I can work out shirtless if I wanted to, even if I didn't have the physique I wanted, because it would be uncomfortable and I wouldn't particularly like it, because there is some sort of innate biological tendencies that we have from a herd mentality and societal rejection. But that doesn't mean you can't overcome those with changing your beliefs over long periods of time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy. Again, a lot of hope. You're struggling with sports, your career, anything that's an external thing. So bodybuilding, anything in fitness, CrossFit, sports specifically, your career, we can help you break this down. We can show you insight into all the compulsions and the avoidance behaviors you're doing, and we can go from there. Thank you so much, everyone. Always a pleasure. And remember, Phil at OCDrecovery.com, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a good one, everyone.